The flames of Mustafar cast long shadows across Padme's face as Anakin confessed everything. The Jedi Temple, the younglings, the deal with Palpatine. In the original timeline, she recoiled in horror. She couldn't accept what he'd become. But not here. Here, she understood. Anakin, she whispered, stepping closer instead of away. I see it now. The Jedi failed you. The Republic failed us both. They would have taken everything from us. Our love, our children, our future. Anakin froze. He'd expected rejection, disgust, maybe even violence. But Padme's eyes held no judgment, only resolve. You did this for us, she continued, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. To save me, to save our family. How can I condemn you for that? Relief and shock washed over Anakin's face. For the first time since his fall, he didn't feel alone. The woman he loved, the only person whose opinion truly mattered, stood with him, not against him. Together, Padme said, taking his gloved hand, we can reshape the galaxy. No more corruption, no more lies. We'll bring the peace and security we always dreamed of. Anakin's yellow Sith eyes softened for just a moment. You mean it? You'll stay with me? Always. Behind them, Obi-Wan's ship descended through the volcanic sky. He'd followed Padme here, hoping to reason with his former apprentice, hoping to end this nightmare before it spread further. But as he emerged from the landing ramp, lightsaber in hand, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Padme and Anakin, standing side by side, united. Padme, no. Obi-Wan's voice cracked with disbelief. What have you done? She turned to face him, her expression no longer that of a frightened senator. It was cold, determined. She'd made her choice. I've chosen love over lies, Obi-Wan, she said calmly. Something the Jedi could never understand. Anakin ignited his crimson blade. Beside him, Padme's hand moved to her waist, where Anakin had given her a second lightsaber. Obi-Wan realized with horror. He wasn't facing one fallen Jedi. He was facing two. Obi-Wan barely escaped Mustafar alive. Burned, broken, and defeated, he fled into the outer rim with a terrible truth. Anakin Skywalker hadn't just fallen alone. He'd taken Padmé Amidala with him. The woman who once championed democracy now wielded a lightsaber stained red with Jedi blood. Across the galaxy, Order 66 had already decimated the Jedi ranks. But the survivors, masters like Yoda, Luminara Unduli, and Ki-Adi-Mundi, went into hiding, hoping to regroup and resist. They believed time was on their side, that Palpatine's new empire would fracture under its own weight. They were wrong. Anakin and Padme hunted them together. Where Anakin brought raw power and aggression, Padme brought intelligence and political cunning. She knew the Senate inside and out. She knew every safe house, every ally, every hidden Jedi sympathizer. One by one, she fed them to Anakin's blade. On Kashyyyk, they cornered Luminara Unduli. She fought valiantly, but two Sith were too much. Padme distracted her with precise, calculated strikes, while Anakin delivered the killing blow. On Felucia, they ambushed Aayla Secura before she even knew they were there. Padme had accessed the clone trooper comm channels, something Anakin never thought to do. They knew her position before she did. One by one, the Jedi fell. Palpatine watched from Coruscant with growing unease. He'd intended Anakin to be his obedient weapon. Powerful, yes, but broken and dependent. Instead, Anakin had found strength in Padme. They were becoming partners, equals. Worse, Padme's influence was changing Anakin. He no longer raged blindly. He planned. He thought ahead. She tempered his fury with strategy, making him far more dangerous than Palpatine had ever intended. They're becoming too powerful, my lord, Commander Cody reported during a secure transmission. The troops are starting to fear them. Some even admire them. Palpatine's yellow eyes narrowed. This wasn't part of the plan. Meanwhile, on a Star Destroyer above Coruscant, Anakin and Padme stood together in the observation deck. Her belly had begun to swell with their unborn children. "We're stronger than him," Padme whispered, watching the Emperor's palace below. "You know that, don't you?" Anakin's gaze hardened. "Yes, Ido." Emperor Palpatine had orchestrated 1,000 schemes over decades. He'd manipulated the Clone Wars, destroyed the Jedi, and seized absolute power. But he made one critical miscalculation. He underestimated Padmé Amidala. She wasn't like Anakin, driven by fear and passion. Padme was calculating, patient. She'd spent years navigating the Senate's treacherous waters, building alliances, reading people. Now, pregnant with Anakin's children and wielding the dark side, she became something Palpatine never anticipated. "Arrival, why do we serve him?" Padme asked one night aboard their personal Star Destroyer. She stood before a viewport, silhouetted against the stars, one hand resting on her growing belly. "You're the chosen one, Anakin, the most powerful Force user alive. Why bow to anyone?" Anakin hesitated. Weeks ago, the question would have seemed absurd. Palpatine was his master, his savior, the man who'd promised him everything. But Padme had a point. "He taught me the dark side," Anakin replied carefully. "He saved you." "No." Padme turned, her eyes sharp. "You saved me. Your power. Your choice. Palpatine just pointed you in the right direction. But now..." She smiled coldly. "Now you don't need him anymore. We don't need him." The seed was planted. Over the following weeks, Padme worked quietly. She contacted former Senate allies, those who'd opposed Palpatine's rise, but lacked the strength to resist. She offered them protection under Anakin's banner. She whispered promises of reform, of a better empire led by those who understood justice. Slowly, carefully, she built a faction loyal to her and Anakin, not to the Emperor. Palpatine's spies reported everything. In his throne room, the Emperor's hands trembled with rage. This was the Sith way? Yes, the apprentice eventually challenges the master. But it was happening too soon. Anakin wasn't supposed to have support. He was supposed to be isolated, desperate, dependent. Padme had changed everything. "Prepare the royal guards," Palpatine commanded, "and contact the Inquisitorius. If Vader thinks he can challenge me, he'll learn what true power means." But across the city, in their private chambers, Padme felt the Force ripple with danger. She placed a hand on Anakin's arm. "He's going to move against us," she whispered. Soon, Anakin's jaw tightened. Let him try. Obi-Wan Kenobi had lost everything. His order, his brothers, his apprentice. For months, he'd hidden on Tatooine, watching over infant Luke Skywalker, Padme's son, delivered in secret by medical droids before she fully embraced the dark side. But he couldn't hide forever. Rumors reached him through the underground. Anakin and Padme were consolidating power, building a rival faction within the Empire, winning hearts and minds. If they succeeded in overthrowing Palpatine, the galaxy wouldn't be liberated. It would simply trade one tyrant for two. Obi-Wan made a painful decision. He had to kill Padme, not out of hatred, out of necessity. She was the pillar holding Anakin upright. Remove her, and Anakin might collapse back into the broken, conflicted man Obi-Wan once knew. It was a slim hope, but it was the only hope left. He tracked them to Naboo. They'd returned to Padme's homeworld, ostensibly for a diplomatic summit. In reality, they were rallying support among her people. Obi-Wan struck at dawn. He ambushed Padme in the lakeside gardens where she and Anakin had once married in secret. For a moment, just one heartbreaking moment, she looked like the woman he'd once respected. Peaceful, hopeful. Then her crimson blade ignited. "I knew you'd come," Padme said coldly. "Anakin's hunting Jedi on Coruscant. He won't sense you here. Did you think that gave you an advantage?" Obi-Wan's heart sank. She'd anticipated him. "Padme, please. It's not too late. You can still what? Go back." She laughed bitterly. To a republic that lied? To a Senate that enabled Palpatine? To a Jedi Order that forbade love? Her voice sharpened. "I chose freedom, Obi-Wan. Ich chose Anakin. and I'll die before I let you take that from me. They fought. Obi-Wan was the superior duelist, trained since childhood, a master of Sarisu. But Padme was relentless, fueled by conviction and dark side rage. She pressed him harder than he expected. Then Anakin arrived. He'd felt Padme's danger through their bond. He came like a storm, furious, unstoppable. Now Obi-Wan faced both of them. The duel turned brutal. 2 against 1. Husband and wife, moving in perfect sync. Obi-Wan fought brilliantly, but he was outmatched. Anakin's blade found his side. Obi-Wan fell. Obi-Wan Kenobi died on Naboo. Not by Anakin's hand, but by his choice. As the fatal blow struck, he didn't beg. He simply looked at Padme, his eyes full of sorrow. You were supposed to save him, he whispered, not join him. Then he was gone. Padme felt nothing. No remorse, no guilt, only satisfaction. The last tether to Anakin's past was severed. They were free. Weeks later, aboard their flagship Star Destroyer, Padme went into labor. Anakin refused to leave her side. Medical droids swarmed, but he held her hand through every contraction, every scream. He'd feared this moment for so long, feared losing her like in his visions. But this time, things were different. He was stronger now. The dark side flowed through him without restraint. And Padme, powerful, determined Padme, wasn't some fragile senator anymore. She was a warrior. Push, my lady, the medical droid urged. Padme gritted her teeth and pushed. The first cry pierced the sterile air. A boy, strong lungs, furious at being born. Anakin stared down at his son, tiny, squirming, alive, and felt something he hadn't felt in months. Joy. Luke, Padme whispered, exhausted but smiling. His name is Luke. Minutes later, a second cry followed. A girl, just as fierce, just as strong. Leia, Anakin murmured, cradling her gently. Our daughter. But unlike the original timeline, these twins wouldn't be hidden away on desert planets or raised by senators in secret. They wouldn't grow up ignorant of their heritage. Luke and Leia Skywalker would be raised as Sith royalty. The galaxy learned of their birth within days. Holonet broadcasts showed Anakin and Padme standing together on the bridge of their Star Destroyer, each holding a twin. The message was clear. This wasn't just a political faction. This was a dynasty. On Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine watched the broadcast with barely contained rage. His apprentice had done the unthinkable, created a family. A legacy, something that could outlast him. They must be dealt with, Palpatine hissed to his advisors, before those children grow strong enough to threaten me. But across the stars, Padme sensed his intent. She looked down at Leia, sleeping peacefully in her arms. He'll come for them, she told Anakin quietly. Anakin's eyes burned yellow. Let him. The Sith Civil War lasted 18 months. It was brutal, bloody. Star systems burned as Star Destroyers loyal to Palpatine clashed with those sworn to Anakin. Entire fleets were annihilated. Billions died. But Anakin and Padme had one advantage Palpatine didn't. They inspired loyalty, not just fear. Padme used her political genius to turn senators and governors against the Emperor. She reminded them of his lies, his cruelty, his broken promises. She painted Anakin as the chosen one, destined to bring balance by ending Palpatine's tyranny. Anakin, meanwhile, proved unstoppable in battle. He led from the front, carving through enemy ships and troops with terrifying efficiency. Clones and officers who'd once feared him now followed him willingly. The final confrontation came on Coruscant. Anakin stormed the Imperial Palace with Padme at his side. Palpatine's royal guards fell like wheat before a scythe. The Emperor's dark side illusions and Force lightning meant nothing against two Sith Lords fighting in perfect unity. You were my greatest creation, Palpatine screamed, unleashing torrents of lightning. You owe me everything. Anakin deflected the attack, his lightsaber blazing. I owe you nothing. Padme struck from the side, precise, calculated. Her blade pierced Palpatine's defenses. The Emperor staggered. Anakin didn't hesitate. He drove his lightsaber through Palpatine's chest. The Sith Lord who'd orchestrated everything, who'd manipulated a galaxy for decades, collapsed, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he rasped. "You needed me." "No," Padme said coldly, standing over him. "We never did." Palpatine's body crumbled to ash. The Empire was theirs. Within weeks, Anakin and Padme restructured everything. They kept the Imperial military and infrastructure, but softened the regime's edges. Slavery was abolished. Corruption purged. Rebels who laid down arms were pardoned. The galaxy didn't love them, but it obeyed. Emperor Anakin Skywalker and Empress Padmé Amidala ruled from matching thrones, their twins, now toddlers, playing at their feet. Holocams broadcasted the image across every star system. A family, a dynasty, a new order. But in the shadows, whispers began. Not everyone accepted Sith rule, even benevolent Sith rule. Former Jedi, sympathizers, dissident senators, Outer Rim freedom fighters. They began to organize. And far away on Tatooine, an old hermit named Bail Organa watched the holonet and clenched his fists. "This isn't over," he whispered. The rebellion was born in secret. Bail Organa, Mumwatma, a handful of surviving Jedi, like Ahsoka Tano. They gathered in hidden locations, asteroid bases, abandoned stations, remote moons, and swore to resist. But this rebellion faced a nightmare scenario. In the original timeline, they had hope. Hope that Darth Vader could be redeemed. That Luke Skywalker could turn his father back to the light. That love and compassion could defeat the dark side. Here, that hope was gone. Anakin and Padme weren't tyrants ruling through fear alone. They genuinely believed they were saving the galaxy. They'd ended Palpatine's cruelty, reformed exploitative systems, and brought stability. Worse, they loved each other. Deeply, unshakably. There was no conflict to exploit, no crack to widen. "How do we fight this?" Mon Mothma asked during a council meeting, her voice strained. Around the table sat rebellion leaders, all exhausted and demoralized. Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's former apprentice, closed her eyes. "I don't know. The Anakin I knew is gone." And Padme, she shook her head bitterly. "I thought she'd be the one to save him. Instead, she became his anchor in the dark." Bail Organa leaned forward. "Then we fight smarter. Hit supply lines. Liberate systems quietly. Build support over decades if we must." They tried, but every operation ended the same way. On Ryloth, rebel forces ambushed an Imperial convoy. They destroyed half the shipment before reinforcements arrived. Then Anakin appeared. He cut through the rebels like a force of nature. 30 dead in under 5 minutes. On Corellia, rebel spies infiltrated a garrison. They gathered intelligence, sabotaged weapons, and prepared to escape. Then Padme arrived, tipped off by her vast intelligence network. She'd anticipated their every move. 15 captured, interrogated, executed. The rebellion's victories were fleeting, their losses catastrophic. And always at the center of the Empire's might stood Luke and Leia Skywalker, now young teenagers trained in the dark side by their parents. Powerful, loyal, unquestioning. "They're raising the next generation of Sith," Ahsoka said grimly, watching a holovid of the twins sparring. "If we don't stop this soon." She didn't finish the sentence, because everyone knew the truth. If they didn't find a way to win soon, the rebellion wouldn't just lose. It would be forgotten. 20 years passed. Emperor Anakin Skywalker and Empress Padmé Amidala aged gracefully, still powerful, still united. Their empire brought prosperity to the core worlds and stability to the outer rim. Crime fell. Trade flourished. The galaxy, in many ways, thrived. But freedom died. Dissent was crushed. Independent thought discouraged. Citizens lived comfortably, but only if they obeyed. The Skywalker dynasty's reach extended into every system, every sector, every home. And at the heart of it all were Luke and Leia. Now in their 20s, the twins had become legends. Luke commanded fleets with tactical brilliance inherited from his mother. Leia wielded political influence and dark side power with equal skill. Together, they were unstoppable. The rebellion, what little remained, was scattered and broken. Ahsoka Tano died on Dantooine, still fighting. Bail Organa was captured and executed. Mon Mothma went into hiding, her rebellion reduced to a handful of cells operating in the farthest reaches of the unknown regions. They'd lost. The Jedi were extinct. The Sith ruled. And unlike Palpatine's cruel regime, the Skywalkers' empire wasn't hated, it was accepted. People didn't rise up because their lives were better than before. Slavery was gone. Corruption was punished. Order reigned. But what cost? On Coruscant, Anakin and Padme stood together on the palace balcony, overlooking the glittering city planet. Their children stood beside them. Luke on Anakin's right, Leia on Padme's left. A family, a dynasty, unbreakable. Do you ever regret it? Padme asked quietly, her hand in Anakin's. The path we chose. Anakin looked at her, the woman he'd burned the galaxy for. The woman who'd stood beside him when everyone else turned away. Never, he said. We did what the Jedi couldn't. We brought peace. Padme smiled faintly. Peace or control? Anakin didn't answer, because deep down, he knew the truth. They'd won. They'd saved each other, built a family, created a legacy. But in doing so, they'd become exactly what they once fought against. And as the city lights glittered below, beautiful, orderly, and utterly silent, one thing was clear. Love had conquered the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forgive them.